Go on, girls.
Today I want to talk about God of War Ragnarok. I have finished it completely, and when I say completely, I have got the Platinum Trophy for the game. I've done every side quest, picked up every collectible, and I have things to say. I am 100% biased when it comes to this game because I love every single one. I've been a big fan since the first one came out. I paid a classmate $20 to get his copy because I could not go and get a new one, and I did not care. I needed to play it, and I fell in absolute love with it. The same with 2, 3, Ghost of Sparta, Chains of Olympus. I love them all. The 2018 reboot in particular, I wholeheartedly enjoyed. I love seeing Kratos grow into a new character and really start showing some emotion, really start learning how to be an actual person and not just a mindless rage monster half of the time. And you really see the culmination of the events in this Norse saga, really getting to him and seeing his character change the most of any of the games. He has more character progression here than any of the previous games. And it was awesome seeing him really struggle with some things, like how to be compassionate at the passing of a loved one, how to really rely on others, how to really feel the emotions that you feel, and to learn what it is to actually just be a person. It was really great seeing that. And from the opening moments of this game, you can always tell what is going on in a scene, how Kratos is feeling, how any given character at any given moment is feeling, because this game has some phenomenal facial capture, and the characters have so much emotion. The first couple seconds of Kratos just sitting there looking at the bag of his wife's ashes is just one of the most effective ways I've been pulled into the beginning of a game, because it instantly put me where he was in that moment. From there, the ride just went. And what a ride it is. I am going to be talking about full spoilers in this video, so if you haven't completed the game, or don't want spoiled on something, go ahead and click off of it. Maybe come back and we'll talk about it when you're done, because I would love to talk about it. But for now, save yourself the spoil. Bye-bye. Okay, for those who are still here, let's talk about the story.
Ready.
Oh man, did I love this. It immediately hooked you with that hook I talked about earlier, but the first thing that happens is you are instantly getting attacked by Freya, and it is a really good intro sequence because you still feel her anger from Kratos killing her son, and no matter what the justification is, she is just a mother overtaken with grief and rage. And as much as Kratos wants to do something about it, no one would understand more than him those two emotions. Like he says later in the game, he is the expert on the subject.
Please don't make me do this!
But seeing her emotional journey through this game, coming along with Kratos, and every time Freya wants to just hate Kratos' guts, she immediately starts to feel for him because he starts being, more forthright about how he was raised, how Spartans are raised, what happened to him, the fact that Ares had tricked him into killing his wife and daughter, and she couldn't even fathom that. She was completely speechless when he told her that. And it was just such a good interaction. And overall, I really enjoyed where Freya's story went in this game and the fact that she became a companion with you later.
I do not regret saving your life, and never will. But the choice between life and death should have been yours to make. I should not have robbed you of that choice.
What was that?
Your ball! Can I come in? I have meat.
But for now, the Norse gods. I love this rendition of all of them. Odin is one of those villains that you just love to hate. He is entertaining to watch and even funny at times, but you always know he is up to no good. And you are usually right. And Thor. And I must say this about Thor, though. When he first opened his mouth, all I heard was Josh Brolin, and I can't stop hearing that now. But anyway, his character, it was great to watch this version of Thor after seeing so many, and the Hemsworth-ified version of Thor for Marvel, which I do love, but this version feels so grounded and so real and so human for being such a powerful god. You know, he struggles with his family. He has drinking problems. He hates thinking for himself because he doesn't want to be held accountable for his own actions. And so he's always just doing what Odin wants him to do. And his character arc in this was very interesting, seeing him go back and forth between wanting to hate Atreus and Kratos and really kind of sympathizing with them and ultimately coming to his senses at the end of the game. But unfortunately, a little too late.
Modi sought us in fear of you. He died of the wounds you gave him. Oh, we got a model father here.
Sif, his wife, I thought was just going to be annoying because she was that character that just hates everybody. But even she, who wasn't even at the forefront of the story, had her own little character arc, and by the end, you were actually like, oh, I kind of like you. And the same can be said for like every single character, save for Heimdall, because oh man, did they make him easy to hate. He is a son of a bitch, if you don't mind me saying. He's that guy that mocks you every step of the way, knowing darn well that he is better than you, until he isn't and gets kicked in by Kratos.
Look! That's all this is!
Is this about the little runt? Oh, now I am definitely going to gut him.
Kratos.
Now, I do have one problem with one of the characters, and that would be Faye. And it's not because of her character, but because the whole first game we just kind of got teases of Faye, right? She was this mysterious force pushing our story forward. But in this second game, we start and it's just all like, oh, there she is. Now continue. There wasn't any real like lead up, like, oh, this is Faye. This is the reason for our adventure. This is the woman that tamed Kratos. I thought they could have done a little more with her introduction overall. But Honestly, I didn't have a lot to complain about with the story. I enjoyed pretty much every aspect of it, save for that. And I especially loved all of the segments that you played as Atreus, because Atreus is such an interesting character, and they had a really fine line to walk with this character, because he could have either been the most annoying character ever, and you could have just been like, oh my god, he's just an annoying teenager, I cannot stand this. But he ends up being very endearing, and you know where he's coming from, you understand how he feels, and you just want to be on this adventure with him. And sometimes you just want to give him a hug because he is doing his best and it's just not working out sometimes. And despite how everything sounds, how the story sounds, it does sound very doom and gloom, but I actually feel like I laughed much more in this God of War than I have in any previous God of War game, including the 2018 reboot. Mimir is hilarious. The banter between Kratos, Mimir, and Atreus is also hilarious. All the characters have their own moments to shine and their own moments to make you laugh, save for a few that have to stay in the more serious light.
Brother, you don't like riddles, eh?
No.
Oh, you just haven't heard any good ones. Here, I'm tall when I'm young, short when I'm old.
A
What
candle.
Yeah. Heard that one before?
No.
Oh. Well, did you like it?
No.
But honestly, there are so many moments where they play off Kratos's just stoic attitude and his constant at every single question thrown his way, every single problem thrown his way, or even compliment. He always has the same answer, and they even make fun of that a few times.
What manner of creature is that?
Dead.
But and as the game progresses, you see him kind of come out of that and have full conversations and very intellectual and very wise things to say, because let's be honest, this dude has seen some shit. He's been around the block. He's been through a lot. So he has got a lot to say. He's made a lot of mistakes, and he has learned a lot and become very wise for it. Save for how to properly read the emotions of a teenager. That is his biggest hurdle this entire game.
I have been falling back into my old ways. Angry. Distrustful. With you. Now and before. On our journey together, you have grown into a warrior worthy of your namesake. I was the one who was not ready. I am sorry.
Don't be sorry, Father. Be better. Let's go home.
Now let's talk about the actual gameplay. If you've played God of War 2018, not a lot has changed, but at the same time, a lot has changed. For one, the combat here feels much more responsive, and it's immediately noticeable when trying to learn how to parry in this game versus learning how to try to parry in the first, which was very difficult for me. I don't know about anybody else. But as this game goes, it does have some cracks in its formula. Some really dated aspects of it. Now, the combat is super fleshed out, and this time you have a third weapon, the spear, which I was ecstatic to see Kratos with the classic Spartan shield and spear, and it did not disappoint. The spear is a blast to play with. I love the heavy arts. I love the the arts, the runic attacks. I've been playing Tales of Arise, also fantastic. But the heavy runic attacks and the light runic attacks for everything feel great. But the spear, I think, might have stole the show from me. I didn't use it as much as the others because I think I just didn't realize its value until later. And once I had all the upgrades, I absolutely fell in love with it. And that's a really good thing because in a lot of other aspects, not a lot has changed, like I said earlier. A lot of the runic attacks that you remember from the 2018 are here with some new ones, but it does seem about like 60% to maybe 70% of the stuff is stuff we had, but it's just more available and gets you to the new stuff faster. And the new attacks and new stuff is just the icing on the cake. There are tons of new armor sets and tons of new ways to build Kratos to lean into different kinds of roles, whether you want a tank or you want a glass cannon, which is what I usually end up being because attack all day. Or do you want to be a very defensive build where your shield does a lot of the damage and you just get a lot of rage back on certain attacks? There's even builds where even switching weapons or dodging at the right time or parrying or activating a special ability with one of your weapons slows down time for a moment, and you can stack that with things that made you do more damage when inside of a realm shift, which is what the slow time is called. And it was just all very fun to play around with, very fun to experiment with, and I was really happy to see something like that in this one because it was there in 2018's God of War, but it just wasn't all the way there. The variety wasn't there. But here you have your armor, you have the amulet, you have your weapons and the runic attacks. And certain armor pieces have perks that stack with each other and are more powerful when you use other versions of that armor. And not all of the armor is just one perk that's more powerful with each piece. If you have a set, let's say the Berserker set, which is a really powerful set that people like to use, the chest piece has a very different ability to the gauntlets and the waist piece. And shields even have different kinds of shields that lean into different styles. One focused with parrying, one focused on blocking all damage, just sitting there like a stone wall, like in Dark Souls 3 or something. I really did enjoy the gameplay much more in this one with all of this variety and choice. And especially since it doesn't just apply to you. It also applies to Atreus and Freya, who accompany you on most of your journey. You can give them relics, you can change their outfits, you can give them different weapons, different abilities to use mid-combat, different kinds of arrows because they're both archers. It was very fun mixing all these abilities to find out different ways to smash bosses as quickly as possible. And oh man, at the top of the skill tree, when you get to the last couple fights in this game, the Berserker King and the Valkyrie Queen, oh man, both of them whooped me so many times, at least 10 to 15 times before I was able to beat it. I had to min-max my build for a specific way to go after these two because they were so relentless and they did these specific things that I just had to change my style for to adapt, or else they would just literally end me in one hit. The one thing it struggles with, though, I will say, is multi-enemy combat. And it kind of isn't that big a deal because the Blades of Chaos take a lot of the area of effect type of attacks into account and really destroy kind of everything. But if you're using anything else, it is single target. You need to have some kind of runic attacks that are multi-target, or you have practiced a lot, because sometimes when there's a lot of enemies, you really have a hard time switching between one to the other. Now, to kind of deal with that, though, the sound design is fantastic. In this, you can really listen to your partner. They'll holler out behind you, to your left, to your right, above you. You know, they will holler out when something is coming that you may not be able to block.
On the left!
And after a while, it got kind of annoying, but not to the extent I would worry about it every battle. But I was actually very thankful for it because it saved me a lot of the time. Now, the third thing I really wanted to bring up that I think this game really struggles with is its world design. Now, I'm not talking about the artistic design or like the grand scale of everything. I'm talking about the actual interactable and tangible area you can move around in that was really, really limited a lot of the time. Now, I wouldn't say it was to my detriment. It didn't bother me as it does some. There are plenty of open areas and even different areas with sled dogs because they're so big. And other areas you'll just want to fast travel because they're so large. But there are a couple of areas, the foresty areas in particular, where it's super easy to get lost just by taking a wrong corner. And trying to figure out which path might spit you out where you're trying to get to can be very annoying with a map that isn't terrible, but it isn't the best either. It just does its job enough. The compass is your biggest help. When you go to your map, you can track something and then go to it. That was wonderful. Now, it wasn't perfect, but it really got you to where you were going and really kept you on track when you got lost, because you could just click on where you wanted to go and it would eventually guide you there, even if it wasn't the most perfect and ideal way to go. And we got to talk about these area transitions. Now, I get what these are for. I get that a lot of developers, especially in the PS4 era, were very limited on memory bandwidth and speed of which things could load in, so they would have our characters go through things kind of slowly to the next area in a kind of funneled QTE to let it load in and then set us loose when it's done. This game isn't really doing that. It's more of just leading you places, using this as a tool. And sometimes that works, and sometimes it just feels so abundant that you just feel like it's just slowing you down. And when you go to backtrack some places, it will get on your nerves when trying to pass through like 4 rooms. And in those 4 rooms, there are 3 areas where you have to tap X and walk very, very slowly across the room. Again, it didn't ruin my experience, but it was irritating, especially when going after the platinum, and that requires what will probably be quite a bit of backtracking because there are a lot of collectibles. But in this, at least the collectibles were meaningful. The chests you were finding had runic attacks in them, armor in them, health upgrades, rage upgrades, outfits, everything. So exploration was not crazy in abundance, but it was enough that it had me satisfied and looking for side paths constantly, even if they aren't that frequent. But overall, I would say I love exploring Midgard, and I love exploring all the places that they have made with all this love and attention to detail, and these places that really seem lived in and that seem like they have so much history to tell, and all of the lore pieces they have left behind for us to collect, find, and read through. But before we run too long, I'm just going to get my final thoughts on this game, and that is that it is everything that it needed to be. It is everything I wanted it to be. It is the fundamentals set by God of War 2016, but taken to a whole nother level. Yes, there are some reused assets, but it just kind of makes it feel like a continuity thing, like why change something that isn't broke? This is the way something is. These characters do things certain ways. These worlds look a certain way. And even in environments that we have already explored, they are vastly different from how they were presented to us before. And this game is probably 2 or 3 times the game that the 2016 title is, so I absolutely believe that this will be one of the Game of the Year contenders and would probably take it at the end of the day. But those are my thoughts on it after acquiring both Platinums. I hope you got to the end of this video and enjoyed this little conversation. Subscribe if you want to hear more conversations like this. Like if you like the video. I will talk to you later.
Remember our promise.
Loki will go. Atreus remains.